Good morning, YouTube. As you can see, the chicks are all up and around. It is the third morning with us. So today, I'm going to work on cleaning out their feed tray and their water tray. As you can see, they filled it with wood chips, both. And we're going to check for something called Pasty Butt. Okay, I got lucky on this one. See this little tushy right there? That's Pasty Butt. On the third day, I usually check my chicks for Pasty Butt. I looked at grabbed the first one, and sure enough, he has poop stuck to his tail feathers. Now, this will seal up his vent, which is right there, and make it so he can't poop, and then he will die. So I'm going to clean that up. But the other tip is, if you're going to Tractor Supply and picking up a chick, relax, relax. You can actually find the boys in 3-day chicks by looking for this right here. See that little feather right there? The boys will grow that feather larger and faster than the girls. So if they're all about the same size, look for the feather. And that will tell you which ones the boys are. If you have a tolerant ag supply person, they will let you say, I want that one, I want that one, I want that one. I actually make them check for Pasty Butt and attempt to pick the ones with the biggest wing feathers to increase my odds of getting roosters. Now these guys, this is cheating. They're all roosters sexed at the factory. So the food, they just come through and get rid of the wood chips. They like to put them in, I like to take them out. If it gets covered with wood chips, they won't eat it. They'll just look at it like, it's the floor. And because they're small, I'm going to actually work this in a little bit. You saw on day one, the day one video, they were all, oh, what's the big giant hands doing? Let's go look. And now today, they're all hiding over there in that corner. Because suddenly, they're afraid of the big giant hand. This is pretty typical. And when they become teenagers, the big giant hand will mean food. So when they see it, they'll actually charge it. Because they want to be the first one to get to the fresh food every day. This was a little high. It didn't look empty. It isn't empty. But I'm going to fill up the banks on the sides to really give them an opportunity, because today is the day to be hungry. They're totally piled up in the corner over there. No, he's going to get us. Little do they know that I will be back. And I will be back with water. And I'll pick them up and I will clean each of their little tushies. Now right now, the chicks are not pooping that much. There's a little bit here and here and here. It's all over the place. They're not eating yet. You can tell because the food tray is not empty. But when they start eating, they'll start pooping, which is great. But when they poop, it makes ammonia, and the ammonia gets onto the wood chips. Now the wood chips are great at soaking up the ammonia smell. But in previous videos, you've heard me talking about the deep bedding method. I'm going to keep adding wood chips in here. The last batch, it was 11 inches thick to make it so that my kitchen, which is right above the room in the basement that I kept them in, didn't stink. I had 11 inches of pine shavings to keep the smell at bay. And it works, but you end up with a lot of wood chips that are coated in nitrogen. You still have plenty of water. They just have this really bad habit of scratching around the water supply. So they've got wood chips in here. I am going to convert them over into a nipple waterer because the last batch of chickens wouldn't adapt to a nipple waterer later in their days. So I'm going to teach these guys. I just didn't have the nipples available to me right now. Two things to check in the water. One, that the bowl is clean or relatively clean. And two, that it's cold, not hot. Now, when they first got here, I warmed up the water to help them warm up on the inside. But we want cool water in here to help them regulate their temperature. When they're over there, they get all nice and warm. They come over here, they cool off. So this helps them cool off. That's it for round one of chicks this morning. I'm going to go get a couple of chores done. I have a whole batch of chickens outside that like attention. And we'll be back later to solve that pasty butt problem. Some chicks get pasty butt. In my first batch of Cornish cross this year, 0 pasty butt. The heritage breed Barred Rocks, pasty butt. So what am I going to do with these chicks and their pastiness? I've got a container of warm water with some Dawn dish soap in it. I'm going to get a box and subdivide the brooder and herd all the chicks over into the cold side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up one chicken, clean, dirty, put it on the other side. As you can imagine, 25 chicks at the rate that you've seen these guys move, not segregating the brooder would be futile because they just run around and be all crazy. So I'll put up the camera, stop talking, and get working. All right, I've got my barricade up. Bink. It's being held up by these coffee cans that I have full of doorknobs. The chicks are all completely freaked out because their world is coming to an end. Little did they know that pasty butt is their world coming to an end. I've got myself a chick. Look at that fanny. Perfectly clean. Good job. You get to be on the warm side. Perfectly clean. You get to go on the warm side. Oh, come here. Clean. 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 Oh! It survived.
Broken neck.
Clean.
What do you call PETA?
Good. People who eat tasty animals, pasty butt. Let's get this one comfortable. Chickens held upside down will eventually relax. So I'm going to take and just rub the moisture onto a little clump right there. And I have to work it slowly to moisturize it. This chicken's vent is completely glued shut at the moment. It's not fast. It's not pretty. Actually, I don't like doing it. They don't like me doing it. So I put my one finger stationary and actually scrape with the other one. You can see that the chick is getting a little uncomfortable. What we're trying not to do is pull out these pin feathers back here. They're his. He gets to keep them if I can help it. Almost clear. I know. If he wasn't afraid of me before, he will be now. Okay, well, when you get this all cleaned up, you'll actually be able to see their vent move back and forth. And so far, I can't see his move back and forth. So he gets to keep this up until his butt moves correctly. Oh, there it is. It's clear. Alright, but I'm going to look for this spot on the back of his tushy again. And if I see it, then I'm going to clean him again. So I got to get it all off of there. I'm just gently rubbing the Dawn back and forth on his tush at this point. Okay, clean butt, free chicken. Although he looks like a wet mess right now. So I'm not going to make you endure that 100 times, but when I'm done, I'll tell you how many of the 25 had the problem. So 4 out of 26 chicks had pasty butt. The first one, I got way too wet. And then by the end, I was doing really good. So here, let me show you my technique, or tell you my technique, because the chick's already done. You get back there where that little clump of turd is, with your wet, Dawn-soaked fingers, and you pinch the turd. Now, you have to be very careful. Don't pull out the pin feathers. So you actually have to put a little inward. Think like you're pushing into the chick, but you're not actually pushing into the chick because they can't handle that. But you don't want to be pulling out. Right, you want to stay right there, even with their skin, and kind of compress the little turd. And then give it a little rub back and forth. Now, you can only do this very, very little distance because you don't want to pull out the pin feathers. Unfortunately, they get wet. And then when I started putting them from the food side to the warm side, the other chicks decided to help the soggy chicks with their soggy problem, which means they're pecking each other, and when they start pecking each other, then you end up with maybe some blood, and once you get some blood, then you have one less chick for you to harvest later. Let me show you my wet chicks. They are deathly afraid of me now. I do have more than 4 chicks in here, but you can see that they got wet. They're cold, and I need to close the brooder so that they can warm up. I'm going to keep them segregated. There's enough chicks here on the other side of this divider that if they get cold, they will just bunch up somewhere and be warm, and they're cool. So I'll just leave my little hokey divider in here until such time that these guys are dry. Now the 2 dry ones, if I catch them pecking on the other ones, I'll actually move them to the other side with the others, but so far they're behaving themselves. But that'll be it for today. Pasty Butt Day. Yay! I won't have to do this again for another 3 days, but I will check them again in about 3 days. When they're about a week and a half old, there's no more pasty butt.